Most people think debt is a personal problem. Credit cards, mortgage, student loans. But on the global stage, debt is something else entirely. It's a weapon, a bargaining chip, and sometimes a ticking time bomb. Today, we're going inside how nations use debt or get trapped by it at the most dangerous economic crossroads. At its core, national debt is simple. A country spends more than it earns and borrows the difference. But what happens after that is where power shifts. Because debt doesn't just fund roads, schools, or growth. It creates leverage. And the story of that leverage is the hidden story of modern power. Here's the first truth most people miss. Debt isn't automatically bad. It's contextual. Think of it like a tool. In the right hands, it builds empires. In the wrong hands, it becomes a cage. Used correctly, debt accelerates growth, innovation, and influence. It can finance a technological revolution or rebuild a nation after a war. Used poorly, it erodes sovereignty, piece by piece. The difference isn't the amount of debt. It's who controls the timeline. This is a crucial distinction. Countries that issue debt in their own currency, like the United States or Japan, have a massive advantage. Why? They can print more of their own money. They can influence their own interest rates. They can essentially delay the day of reckoning. It's not a perfect solution, but it's a powerful lever. Now consider countries that have to borrow in a foreign currency, like the US dollar. They don't get that luxury. They are completely exposed to decisions made in another country. A change in the US Federal Reserve's interest rates can suddenly make their debt much more expensive. A fluctuation in the exchange rate can cripple their ability to pay. That's when debt stops being a helpful tool and starts becoming a dangerous trap. It's like playing a game where your opponent sets all the rules. This is where the geopolitics really kicks in. When one nation holds a significant amount of another nation's debt, it gains influence. This influence isn't always loud or obvious. You won't see it on the nightly news. But pressure doesn't need tanks and soldiers when it has deadlines and interest payments. Imagine this scenario. Country A lends billions to Country B years later. Country B struggles to repay. Country A doesn't need to declare war. It can just suggest that if Country B wants a more favorable repayment plan, maybe it should vote a certain way at the United Nations, or grant access to a strategic port or sell a state-owned company to a corporation from Country A. This is the quiet coercion of creditor power. History shows this pattern over and over again. A developing nation borrows to build infrastructure and stabilize its economy. But then, global growth slows down or the price of its main export commodity crashes. Suddenly, that manageable debt becomes an anchor. Refinancing gets harder and more expensive. Then come the conditions. International lenders, often influenced by powerful creditor nations, step in with bailout packages. But these packages come with strings attached. They demand austerity, cut public spending on things like healthcare and education. They demand privatization, sell off national assets like water utilities or energy companies, often at bargain prices. They demand policy changes that favor foreign investors. At that point, the conversation isn't about money anymore. It's about control. The debtor nation's economic policy is no longer being decided in its own capital, but in the boardrooms of its creditors. Its sovereignty has been compromised without a single shot being fired. This leads to the most dangerous moment of all, the economic crossroads. The leaders of the indebted nation are backed into a corner and face three terrible choices. 1. They can inflate their way out. This means printing money to pay the debt. This might protect jobs and growth in the short term, but it erodes the value of the currency, wipes out savings, and destroys trust with international partners. It's a short-term fix with long-term pain. 2. They can choose austerity. This means making those painful cuts to spending, raising taxes, and trying to pay back the debt honorably. This protects the country's financial credibility, but it can lead to massive unemployment, social unrest, and political instability. The government risks being overthrown by its own citizens. 3. They can default. This means simply refusing to pay back the debt. It's like hitting a reset button. This wipes the slate clean, but it comes at a catastrophic cost. The nation loses all access to international capital. Its reputation is destroyed, and it can be locked out of global financial markets for years or even decades. There is no clean option. There's no easy way out. Every path has severe consequences, both for the country itself and for the rest of the world. And when major economies hit these crossroads, the ripple effects spread like a tsunami. Their currencies weaken, causing instability in foreign exchange markets. Global trade routes shift as the country can no longer afford to import goods. Political alliances strain as the nation feels betrayed by its partners. Debt decisions made in one capital city can raise the price of your groceries, collapse investment markets you're a part of, or destabilize entire regions halfway across the world. This is why debt is never just about economics. It's fundamentally geopolitical. It's a story about power, control, and survival. And here's the part most people don't connect. The same logic that traps nations also traps individuals. Think about it. When you're over-leveraged with credit card debt or a mortgage you can barely afford, you lose your freedom. Your choices become limited. Your boss has more power over you because you can't afford to lose your job. The bank's deadlines create constant pressure. The scale is different, but the principles are exactly the same. Dependency limits choice, and a lack of options is a form of capture. So, which countries navigate these treacherous waters best? The ones that survive and even thrive through debt cycles all share one critical trait: optionality. They work tirelessly to maintain options. They do this by building diverse economies, so they aren't reliant on a single industry or commodity. They build credible, transparent institutions that inspire trust both at home and abroad. And most importantly, they maintain negotiating power. They have strong diplomatic relationships, strategic alliances, and a good reputation. Because when a debt crisis becomes unavoidable, it's leverage that decides the outcome. The geopolitics of debt isn't really about the numbers on a balance sheet. It's about something far more human. It's about who has the luxury to wait and who is forced to rush. It's about who gets to dictate the terms and who has no choice but to accept them. In a world that is fundamentally built on borrowing, the future belongs to those who understand the game, not just those who are forced to play it. This is like Casso. If this gave you a new lens on money, power, and risk, save this video. Because the biggest financial lessons aren't always personal, until suddenly they are. Thanks for watching.